Welcome to Refiner's Fire, a YCP-produced podcast. We bring on experienced Catholic professionals to talk about the integration of faith and work. My name is Stephen Mezzacappa, and I'm our Northeast Regional Chapter Manager for YCP. Joined with us today is Matt Ingold. Matt works in the space of Catholic formation and coaching, helping people move from just not knowing their faith, but to actually living it. Through Metanoia Catholic, he equips leaders and coaches to guide others in discovering their identity and mission, with a big emphasis on the interior life and real transformation. He is also leading a workshop at the conference on networking that actually happened last night, but his angle is more about authentic human connection than transactional networking. Just from your bio, Matt, there's a lot to explore. So let's start with the pre-conference workshop. Tell us how did that go, especially when we talk about authentic networking in a very transactional world?
Yeah. So it's funny when I got here on Thursday night before I did the thing on Friday. I was one of my coworkers was with me and we were going out to dinner, and I noticed when I walked downstairs in the hotel and I started seeing all these amazing Catholic professionals, I started to notice something coming up in me. It was a little bit of fear, a little bit of nervousness, like that comparison thing kind of coming in, and feeling that self-conscious part starting to come forward. And I shared it with her, and I was just like, I don't think I'm even the right guy to be given this conversation, given this talk. And she said something. She said, "You know what? The fact that you're experiencing this, maybe it makes you more qualified than less." Wow. And the reality is, we go into these conversations with people, and at our heart, we desire a connection. But there's all kinds of mindset drama, like I was experiencing, the comparison side of things, the thoughts about what am I going to say next? Am I saying the right thing? Did I share too much? All of those things are swimming around in our head while we're talking to somebody, and it's actually blocking us from really connecting with the person, which is ultimately what we want.
Yeah, it's a distraction. It takes you out of the moment. It makes you not present. How could young professionals combat what was the phrase you used? The mind drama? Was that?
It's mind drama, head trash, whatever. I mean, it's just. So first of all, it's just like just noticing it. That's the first thing. Noticing it without judgment. So for me last night, I was just noticing that comparison part was kind of coming up, and I was feeling this sensation in my body that I call nervous, right? Mm-hmm. And this is the way that God designed our bodies to work. The body makes visible what is invisible, as St. John Paul II says in his Theology of the Body. So our interior life, the thoughts that we think, they actually, St. Thomas Aquinas gets into this. They produce the passions, the emotions that we feel, and those emotions incline us to act or avoid acting in certain ways, right? This is how God designed us. Again, to be the word flesh, right? Yeah. The body makes visible what is invisible. And so the first step is just noticing. This is what I did that night. I noticed that I was feeling nervous. And I knew that nervousness wasn't because there was amazing people around me. Yeah. It was because the observation, the thought I was having about who I was compared to these amazing people around me. Wow. And so just starting with the nervous and just knowing that's coming from a thought and being able to take that thought captive, 2 Corinthians 10:5, take every thought captive to obey Christ. That's where it has to begin, right? It's not just going into the bathroom, giving yourself the look in the mirror and giving yourself the pep talk, right? Yeah. It's about noticing it, saying, okay, I'm just noticing this. I think it's helpful, but it's leading me to be nervous. And that when I'm nervous, I'm no longer curious about the person in front of me. And I'm cutting myself off from really experiencing the mystery of who they are. I'm no longer curious, which is really what I was encouraging people, that the disposition to have, the emotion to feel, entering into the conversation, one of compassionate curiosity. Yeah. Gave a lot there, right? Yeah. Step one is just being aware of, I feel an emotion. What's the thought?
Yeah. Well, it also sounds like you're talking too about taking the eyes off of yourself. You mentioned like going to the bathroom, give yourself a pep talk, looking in a mirror. A lot of pop culture likes to talk about that. But it really sounds like what you're articulating is not looking at me, but looking up and letting God tell me inviting him into the conversation. So what does that look like? If you're at a networking event, how could you invite the Holy Spirit and the Lord into those interactions?
Okay. I'm so happy that you brought up. It's not like it's looking up, because it all starts with asking the Lord, how do you want me to be before this person in front of me, right? So one of the things that we actually did, we taught a skill that we call the spotlight effect. It's one of the things that we teach all of our coaches to do, and it's an active listening skill, right? And so what we do with the spotlight effect is we help the person to grow aware of where the spotlight is at. And that spotlight is the focus, where their focus is. When they're thinking thoughts of, what have I got to say? What am I going to say next? What did I do too much? Did I say too much? What did they think of me? All of that, the spotlight is on them. And when they're thinking those thoughts, that's where they feel the fear that comes up in nervousness or hesitation, and they pull back. And again, that's a barrier to the connection that they want. And so what we invite them to do is just, again, be aware when they're starting to feel that fear. That just means the spotlight is on you. And there's one of those nuances of that thought that's bringing about that nervousness. All right, so take that thought captive. But what we invite people to do to bring the spotlight back onto the other person and have that curious disposition that's open to encounter is by simply maybe asking a question.
Yeah.
Or having a statement that they can fall back on. I invited everybody to identify what the statement could be. One of the ones I like to use is, Lord, you have put this person in front of me right now for a reason. And you've planned this for all of eternity. I wonder what you have for this conversation.
Wow.
And even those questions, I wonder, it's just something, all of a sudden the spotlight goes back over into the other person, and we're open. And the curious person asks questions. They enter the dialogue. They enter the mystery of the person, and it becomes like those questions draw the mystery that God is doing in their life out of them. It's really an encounter with Christ in the other person at that point. And you always win, whether you walk away with a business deal or somebody's phone number, the girl's phone number at the end. Like at encounter, you always win.
Yeah, now, I love to dig into the curiosity piece, but even before that, like I love the metaphor of just the spotlight. Yeah, and so if you're in an interaction, is the way to visualize almost the spotlight is on that person majority of the time? Is there like a magical percentage of? Or is you just always
Did
working
you go to
keep
the class?
spotlight?
Like you were like asking all the questions. I was like, this is slide 8. So yeah, we pair it up. We have another internal active listening technique we call 80-20, the 80-20 rule. And so really what that is like you're listening 80% of the time. You're talking 20% of the time. When you're talking, prioritize your talking to be asking some of those deepening questions. Really draw the mystery out. Your chance to share will come. Yeah, the law of reciprocation kicks in here, and there's time to share.
Wow, and so I do want to dig into the curiosity because you mentioned that, and I think it's so impactful to networking and those conversations. But even as workplace professionals and young Catholic professionals working, it seems like curiosity is a great way to improve team effectiveness, deal with team conflict. What's been your experience? And how you've seen curiosity transform workplaces or work experiences for professionals.
Okay, great question. So one of the things that is often at the source of conflict is the opposite of curiosity, which is presumption. Okay, the person that is presumptive, they don't ask questions because they already have the answer. At least they think they do in their mind. And when they're operating from that place of presumption, they project intention onto people's actions that may be right, may be wrong, but that presumption, it's a barrier. It creates a barrier to the relationship. They think it's helpful, but it's creating distance. And so when we're working with professionals and the coaching that we do, we want to invite them, especially if they're a manager, to just check that presumption. And always lead out with a question, okay? And it's as simple as saying, okay, let's start with the facts. This is something I noticed. So where they could see maybe somebody's showing up late, right? And the presumption approach would be like, hey, you just don't care. Your heart's not in it, okay? But stepping out of presumption and entering to curiosity without just giving them a pass would be just starting with the facts and saying, okay, I've noticed that 3 days this week, you arrived 5 minutes late. Tell me what's going on, right? And just starting there, like what's going on? And it doesn't mean that whatever they say, they get a pass. It's an opportunity to say, okay, I understand what's going on. This is the standard. This is the expectation going forward. Wow. And it just changes. It's now it's about an invitation to step to a new level of excellence. Yes. And then even invite. Maybe there's a way that you as a manager might help them overcome an obstacle that they have to really step into that area of excellence, because they're showing up late because they think it's helpful in some way.
And you might end up getting a better result than you would have
Every
thought
time.
previous.
Every time. Yeah.
Wow. So it sounds like there's a choice to be curious or to be presumptuous in certain situations. If someone struggles with, by default, leaning into more presumptuous or assuming versus being curious, how could folks utilize their faith to overcome that and to be more curious?
Okay. So curiosity for somebody else starts with curiosity of yourself. Okay. Upper limits our ability to love one another is our ability to love ourselves. And this is the law. Christ has given this to us. So you love your neighbor as you love yourself. So your upper limit to love your neighbor is your ability to love yourself. And so it's very important for people to even see where they're putting demands on themselves, where they're being presumptuous or judgmental or overly critical about themselves. And they're doing that because they think it's helpful. Well, if they think it's helpful for themselves, they're going to do it with the other people. Parents will do it with their kids. Spouses will do it with one another. And it's doing with the best of intentions. But when you really pause and you say, okay, what are the fruits of operating in this presumption? And they see the rupture in relationship that's there, or even in the workplace, the drop in productivity, the drop in employee engagement, the turnover rates that are happening. I mean, this hits in really dollars and cents kind of ways. Then it's just like, okay, do you want to continue to stay presumptuous? Because you can, but you can't change the fruits. You're going to continue getting rotten fruits.
Yeah. It sounds like there's that opportunity for inner transformation, inner coaching, and inner development. How have you all in Metanoia Catholic addressed that? Like, how do you bring that into your coaching?
Okay. So again, it goes back to, coming full circle here, Stephen. So the body makes visible what is invisible of the person, what is spirit and divine. That's a central tenet of St. John Paul II's theology of the body, right? Our bodies mean something. So if we want to improve and grow in excellence, oftentimes where we start is we say, well, I need to do more things. And it's like we start with the things that we can see, because that's the world that we live in, and we start with kind of that it feels like a very comfortable place. But the reality is, if we just focus on changing behaviors but never really go to the root of those behaviors, which is what we're thinking and what we're feeling, right? The feelings come from the thoughts. And this is like neuroscience is confirming this right now. This isn't just like, I love when the physical sciences start to confirm what the doctors of the church have been saying for centuries. Right? So it always starts with an interior awareness. Oftentimes, and this is like, I think of a great example is Gino Wickman, Traction, Entrepreneurial Operating Systems. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So what EOS gives really well is the external systems that a business could put in place to really thrive.
Yes.
Okay? But what Gino Wickman realized after years of doing this, and his latest book gets into this, it's not enough to just give people the external systems if their internal systems are still out of whack, disordered, wounded. And so in Gino Wickman's book, he starts to go to those places of the wounds and recognizing that, like, I can give these people these great tools, but if there's fear in their heart, they're going to stay in the shed and they're not going to go to use. And so our approach is that if you external systems, amen, they give you the markers of excellence to pursue, and don't neglect what's going on interiorly, because you want your interior life to be in conformity with the exterior systems. And this is even Christ gets into this, where it's like, it's not enough for you to be not lusting after your wife, right? If you're lusting your heart, you're disintegrated. There's a separation between your body and your external actions. You're going to be living in the tension of that disintegration. And so we need, I think business and business excellence has a way of drawing out where our internal systems need a little bit of reordering.
Wow. So the business context could almost become aware that there could be an imbalance in our interior life?
Oh, by the fruits you will know, right? If there is interior disruption in the leadership, that will make itself manifest by law in the fruits of the workplace. I mean, look at King Saul, right, versus King David, right? The interior disposition of the leader and what it did to Israel in Scripture. Same as, I think, by law, right? The Lord gives us the leaders that we ask for, and this is our constant work to do as leaders. We have to be going interiorly.
Yeah. As young professionals, let's say we sense an out of balance in our interior life. What are some of the first steps we could take to bring back the balance and grow in interior excellence to work and witness for Christ, essentially?
Okay. So often people, when they ask this question, I'm not saying that you're doing this, is like they're just looking for the steps 1, 2, 3, the how-to. And I remember the time in my life where I was with a friend of mine and I made a monk get mad. All right, this is called the story. When the time a monk got mad, and we had Father Boniface Hicks coming and staying with us down in Ave Maria for a couple of nights, and he didn't get really mad, but we were discussing he's an exorcist. We were discussing the different ways that you go about exorcism, and I was very much on the, my cleric side of me. It was like very much how the steps, you got to follow the steps. And finally he said, no, yes, the steps are there. Those are the external excellence. Like that's the exterior systems here, but it's about relationship. It has to start in relationship.
Yes.
Because that's the goal. That's why we're here, to be in relationship with God for all eternity. And we can do all the external things, but if we're not in relationship with ourselves, with other people, with creation, and with God, we're just living in the fall. I mean, the fall ruptured all four of those relationships: self, others, God, and the land, right, and creation. So my guidance to a young person that really wants to start doing this work is, by God's design, you are not meant to do this alone. This is not individual work. And if you think you can just pick up a book and kind of go through it, you're going to be like the person that goes to ChatGPT and says, counsel me. And they're just going to continue to feed you. You're going to stew in your own juices. They're going to continue to feed you the things that it knows you want to hear and keep you on the conversation. But it's all very self-indulgent and self-referential at the end of the day. God designed us to grow and heal in relationship. In the same way that we break and we get wounded in relationship, he heals us in relationship. So finding a good person, I think that's step one, is praying for the Lord. Put that person that you are inviting me to apprentice under, because this work is not head knowledge. It's going to make head to heart. That's something that happens under apprenticeship and somebody modeling this time of work. This is human formation, and our church right now, woefully inadequate in its human formation. Excellent in intellectual, spiritual formation, woefully inadequate right now in human formation. That's my opinion.
Wow. So when people are looking for that person to grow in relationship, to help them grow in relationship with the Lord, themselves, through that journey, from your experience, what does that look like for people?
Like finding what's a good person look like?
Yeah.
It's somebody. It's got to start with somebody you admire, right? And somebody that has maybe been on that journey. I mean, at Metanoia Catholic, we recognized the deficiency when we were working in ministry before we even started. What we saw was a lack of intellectual formation, faith formation, great program that was out there. But the upper limits of the program effectiveness was the person who was leading it, the witness that was in front of them. We just talked about the difference between a teacher and a witness. We need more witnesses. Pope Paul VI says this. And so what does it look like to create more people that have that self-leadership? They've done their own work. They've entered and they've tilled the interior soil, right? And they've experienced some of that reintegration. What's it like to raise up more people that are skilled, because it is a skill that you need to learn in order to do it well? What's it like to create more of those people and then just send them out into the ecosystem where they can just encounter people, model the people? We have about 5 of our coaches with us here right now that are just entering into these conversations with people. They're doing some one-on-one coaching with some people this weekend. And those modeling relationships where they can help the person to really be a student of what's going on interiorly, that changes the game.
Wow. And would you say, when it comes to how the church has been great in spiritual formation, intellectual formation, do you think the Lord is calling up his people to be a part and step up more in helping one another grow in that human formation?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it was Venerable Fulton Sheen. Venerable, blessed, where's he at? Like, come on, we just make him a saint, right?
Yeah, right? Yeah.
So Fulton Sheen, he says, what the church puts down, the secular world picks up. So even this human formation that the first models that I had for some human formation, really coming to understand my own humanity, my thought life, my interior life, it was secular sources that were out there. And when my wife and I went through, there were some great things that really changed our lives, and great practices that even elevated our prayer life. But there were also some weeds amongst the wheat. There were things about manifesting, law of attraction, the New Age kind. When you remove Christ the cornerstone from self-growth and self-perfection, something has to fill that void. And it's either an idol it's always an idol that fills it. Maybe most commonly it's an idol of self, the self that steps in there. And so, what was the question again? Kind of went down a rabbit hole. I think.
No, keep going with your frame of thought.
Okay, all right. So we recognize that this is where Metanoia Catholic, the inspiration came forward with Metanoia. It was like, okay, is there a way to bring all the benefits of the personal development world forward so that Catholics can experience it without the subtle fear that they're being led astray by some of these other New Age or secular humanistic ideologies, right? Because they're there, and even if it's a little bit, they can have a really awful effect on somebody's relationship with the Lord. And so that's what we did. And we drew from the doctors of the church. We drew a lot heavily from St. Thomas Aquinas' philosophy of psychology, theology of the body, John Paul II's personalism, and we just said, okay, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna have a personal development program. We're train other coaches to really lead people this way. It's got to be done from a foundation of a firm Catholic anthropology. A firm Catholic understanding of who the human person is. If we show up to personal growth with the wrong blueprint, right? We're gonna be having all kind. It's gonna be a shoddy construction, right? Yeah. But when we have the blueprint of what brings about thriving in the human person, and the Church has given that to us, and Christ has given that to us, then we can really help people to step into a place of freedom to hear the voice of the Lord and actually respond
and to multiply it from there.
Oh, dude! I mean, I'm glad you brought up just multiplication, because when you're in dialogue with the Lord, and that's one of the things that we teach our coaches to do. It's not just the interior awareness and stewing in that, but eventually it's taking what you're discovering and bringing that to a dialogue with the Lord. Dialogue is the foundation of relationship, right? And so the more we can have honest words and honesty in our dialogue, it heals the relationship, right? And invites us. We get a foretaste of heaven at that point. I'll pause there.
No, that's okay. We'll go ahead and wrap there, Matt. But
cool.
Just want to thank you so much for coming on Refine Inspire and just all the effort and contributions you've made to this year's conference. We're blessed to have Metanoia Catholic here and to have all of your support as well as your coaches. So pleasure to be with you, Matt.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thanks, Stephen.
That's all for this episode. May the Lord be with you.